We're going to get started here. My name's Mike Weaver. I've done this talk once before, but I've expanded it to add some more information and to stay current with what's happening right now. So this guy's in an electric car, and he's speeding down the highway, and a cop flashes his red lights and starts to catch up with him. The guy, electric cars, they go like rockets. The guy keeps speeding. He finally stops, the cop comes up, and he says, "What were you doing?" He said, "Well, my wife ran off with a cop. I thought you were trying to give her back." So electric cars, they first became popular in the late 1800s. They first became popular in the late 1800s. They were really catching on. And then gas happened. And gas is so much more portable. You can have gas stations all over the place. Much harder to charge electric cars back in those days and swap out the batteries. So the gas, internal combustion engine won that race. Why do electric? Well, 29% of greenhouse gas emissions come from transportation. Transportation of all types: cars, rail, trucks, ships, airplanes, motorcycles, lawnmowers, lawn equipment. So the idea is to reduce those emissions, right? We worry about carbon dioxide emissions. Electric cars are so much cheaper to run. They're expensive to manufacture. There is some emission problems with the manufacturer of electric cars, with mining, stuff like that. But over the lifetime of the car, the EV really wins out. And you got no moving parts. You don't have the engine. You don't have the car engine. You got an electric motor or two, So you don't have to worry about oil changes, radiator flushes, transmission. And a feature of a lot of electric cars is one-pedal driving. I don't know if you've heard about that. So when you drive in the car and you let your foot off the accelerator, the car will come to a stop without applying the brakes. So brake jobs are not as prevalent either. They're just really efficient. You avoid the gas stations. If you have solar on your roof, after you pay off the solar panels, it's free charging. And there's level 1, 2, and 3 charging. I'll get into that a little bit later. Electric is cheaper than gas. With gas cars, you're talking about 35–40% efficiency of getting that fuel to the wheels. With electric cars, it's in excess of 80%. So you put that gas in the tank, you burn it up, it's gone forever. There's a lot of waste heat. It's just not nearly as efficient. And of course, all the subsidies on gas and oil exploration have artificially reduced the price of gas. If those costs were built in, it'd be much more expensive than it is now. And oil is a finite commodity. We use it for other things: fertilizer, plastics, drugs, lots of other stuff. These things are I just upgraded my Tesla. I just bought a long range. I picked it up last Saturday. So if anybody wants to ride in it after this is over, be glad to do that for you folks. But they are just incredibly great to drive. There's no turbo lag. It's linear acceleration. You're gone out of the gate. So more reasons to go electric. Obviously, the industry is moving in that direction. And a bunch of you are probably here because of the high price of gas, and you're just interested to see what electrics are all about. GM is announcing 20 new models by 2025. There's a ton of new cars hitting the market this year and next. Ford's got their Mach-E, you probably heard about that, the Mustang Mach-E. Consumer Reports has that as their #1 preferred vehicle this year. The Lightning 150, the F-150 truck, probably heard about that. That's in production now as of April. The Ford Transit, which is more of a utility vehicle, that's an electric vehicle too. Tesla's on the top of everything right now. I'll have more to say about that in a few minutes. The battery range and efficiency of the batteries is really improving. When In 2012, it was a little over $1,000 per kilowatt hour for a battery. It's now under 200. I think it's like 157 or something like that. There's tons of research going on for battery technology. It's really improving. The price has been coming down, but right now, with the demand for electrics and the problems with getting some of these rare earth metals, prices are right now a little artificially high. ICE cars, you probably read in the news, there's talk about the ICE cars being eliminated by 2030. I personally think the inflection point has already happened. I think there's going to be a larger move to electrics. And as electric cars become more popular, the internal combustion engine cars, I think their depreciation is going to accelerate because people are going to want electrics, they're not going to want the ICEs.
What is an ICE?
Internal combustion.
Internal combustion engine, yeah.
I had to ask my husband.
You could ask me, I would have told you.
But you were-
So here's a graph. You see on the left, if an average price of gas is $5.69, that's a dream now, it's a lot higher. It costs $131 to juice up a Ford 150, $83 for a RAV4, $71 for a Honda Civic, compared to the electric Ford Lightning, which is about $23. The Rivian R1T, that's another electric truck, you probably have read about that, $31, and a Tesla Model 3, $12.50. So a dramatic difference in fuel costs. And then, yeah.
When you talked about, you were talking about the subsidy, no matter what the price is per gallon, just on a percentage, what would you guess the percentage to be?
I haven't-
That's subsidized.
I haven't done the research, but fossil fuel subsidies are,
Mike, taxes, 50% of that gas price is tax. Road
20
tax, which electric vehicles don't pay.
Right.
Currently.
Right.
So there's a bit of a fallacy with the price per gallon because there's so much that's included in the petroleum dollar that isn't in the charging dollar. So it's, at some point in time, that's going to get adjusted because I'm sure the federal government and the state governments don't want to not collect road taxes.
it's changing in some states now. There are some states that are charging a premium for electric cars. It's already built into what they're doing on an annual basis. So-
Yeah.
But it's kind of overcompensating because it's not equitable for the electric cars. They're actually charging more for the electric cars compared to what the car would pay in fuel tax right now for some states. But I can't tell you what the subsidy is, but for drilling, exploration, all the things that gas and oil companies do, there's some pretty substantial subsidies
So
for
have you
this.
guys thought about how they would replace the revenue?
Well, like as we were just talking about, some states are charging a premium for electric cars.
Is that the initial sales price?
No.
Is that where that
No,
is?
it's an annual tax that the states are starting to charge.
Regardless of what mileage you're driving?
Yeah,
For
yeah.
now.
So they'll just make up the revenue with an annual.
That's the way it's looking. There's a move in that direction right now, yeah.
With a licensing fee.
Right, right. And on the bottom, you'll see the total costs per mile to run some of these vehicles. So a regular Ford one, I don't know if you can see this in the back, the regular Ford 150, about 26 cents per mile, RAV4 19 cents, Honda Civic 17 cents. The electric F-150 Lightning, the Ford 150, about 10 cents per mile. That's an estimate because this chart came out before the 150 went into production. And the Tesla Model 3, 5 cents a mile, that's for the cheapest Tesla. They used to call it Standard Range Plus, now it's called rear wheel drive. I'm sorry about this slide. They're estimating because of the research in battery efficiency and range and improvements, they're saying that there might be parity around 2025 with internal combustion engine cars. The average price for a new car right now is about $48,000. And the price for the cheapest Model 3 Tesla is right at that figure. It's about just slightly over $48,000. So as I said previously, there's higher emissions in the production of electric car, but over the life of the car, the CO2 emissions are so dramatically less. And these are some cons, obviously. People are worried about range anxiety. I was, because I plan to do some road tripping in my car, and so I just upgraded it to a long-range Model 3. But the average commute in the US is about 37 to 40 miles. So if you have a car that'll do 250 miles, which is pretty standard range for electrics now, my car will go 358, the one I just got. But if you have a 250 mile range car and your commute is 40 miles a day, you're in pretty good shape. For road tripping, it's a different story. So I talked about level 1, 2, and 3 charging. Assuming zero battery charge to 100% capacity, these are the kind of hours you're talking about. So at level 1, that's your house current, just a regular 115 volt plug. You're talking 24, 36 hours to get a full charge. It's really not practical. At level 2, you're talking a 220 circuit in your garage, and you're talking about probably around 35 miles or so per hour charge. I just charged mine overnight. It's good to go the next morning. It's possible in my Tesla to just say, I want to leave by 8:30 in the morning. It conditions the battery. Everything is good to go by 8:30. And then there's level 3, which is really the supercharging network, the DC fast chargers you'll see along some of the interstates. And so Tesla has, I think their top powered one is 250 kilowatt hours now. So that's pretty good. When I had my previous car, it would charge from about, I didn't run my battery down to 0, so you gotta factor that in. But 0 to 100, you're talking probably about 25 minutes. Typically, you don't fully charge the battery, you go to about 80%. As you go more than that, the battery can degrade over time. So if you're routinely charging it to full capacity, it's not recommended.
Do you get any temperature effects? Do you notice a difference, like right now when it's 100 degrees outside?
I got the air conditioning running pretty high.
No, I mean the batteries are temperature sensitive.
It is, when it's really hot, you notice a change, and when it's in the winter, you can realize a 20 to 30% reduction in your battery range.
Yeah.
But if you precondition the battery before you drive, if you warm the battery up, it really helps. A lot of the newer cars have heat pumps built in, which improves the winter driving range. So right here, cold weather driving, that's mentioned there.
Oh.
So EVs are rapidly expanding. I mentioned that by 2030, the major manufacturers the plan is to have them shift over. 50% will be electric by that time. I personally think it's going to happen faster. There's a lot of interest in electric. So in 2021, 6.6 million let's see, what did I say here? Sales doubled from 2020 quarter 1 to 2021 quarter 1. 6.6 million cars, 8.6% of global car sales. Quarter 1 2022, 5.2% of all sales were BEVs, that's battery electric vehicles. That's pure electric, not hybrids and other varieties of that. January, 51% of new car buyers were considering EVs. That's before all this stuff with the fuel costs. So I tend to think it's probably a lot higher. The problem is they just can't produce electric cars fast enough. The wait time, if you buy a Tesla Model Y, which is like a smaller SUV, if you order it now, you can't take delivery until March of next year. They just can't keep up with the demand. It's so. Maybe be a little better. Chargers are becoming more prolific. There are about 16 domestic manufacturers of charging equipment. You probably saw the infrastructure bill that was passed last November, where they talked about 500,000 chargers being installed, but that's in the next like 7 or 8 years too. States will be able to submit their proposals to get funding in September. The idea, I just saw an article yesterday, I guess it was. The Department of Transportation is proposing that the connectors will be universal, that people will have easy ways to pay, so you don't have a membership with one charging network versus the others. It'll be easy pay, it'll be understandable. Every 50 miles they're gonna have at least 150 kilowatt chargers. So they're making real progress. And Tesla is continuing to talk about opening up their supercharger network. They've done it in Europe already for a lot of countries. So it's coming. As far as a common charging connector, CCS is going to be the most popular one. That's the one that's in Europe. Tesla's going to have an adapter for their proprietary connector. So that's coming too. That's pretty exciting. Ford and GM are really plowing, all the companies are plowing big money. And I just read a report today, I think it was either 170 or 190 billion dollars will be invested by 2030 in electric car infrastructure and manufacturing. Car and battery plants are proliferating in a lot of states. They're trying to move battery production domestically because right now the raw materials are going to China for battery assembly, and then they're bringing them back to the States and other countries to put in the cars. Doesn't make very much sense. Transport. So here you see a bunch of the companies that are putting out electric cars. The Japanese companies are they're not catching on to the vision as well. Toyota has one electric car right now. About a month ago, they rolled out a plan for manufacturing quite a few of them, but they're hanging on to the idea of hybrids and hydrogen fuel cell cars. Right now, Toyota makes one hydrogen car. It's only in California, and the charging infrastructure is not there. And that is part of the problem with hydrogen, getting inexpensive charging at different places around the country. And these are some of the states where battery and car manufacturing plants are under construction or will be under construction soon. In 2023, Volvo says they're only going to make electric cars, and that's all kinds of electrics, plug-in hybrids and battery electric vehicles, which are the pure electrics. From 21 to 22, EV sales jumped 4.1% to 8.57%. Europe and China lead. About 1 in 5 cars in China is a battery electric vehicle, as hard as that is to believe. US is a little bit behind. We're not jumping on it as fast. So here in Q1, are the total sales of battery electric vehicles in the US. Tesla occupies 4. They only make 4 models right now. They're all in the top 10. And you can see the Tesla Model Y is in first place, closely followed by the Tesla Model 3. So this is Q1. Some of the legacy manufacturers have had a chance to make more vehicles. So it'll close, but Tesla is so far in the lead, it's going to be difficult in the near term for the other companies to catch up. And I think these are all legacy manufacturers. Some of the smaller startup companies, they're going to have a harder time competing with the money that you need to establish yourself and get going. If you have any questions as I'm going, please.
Have you got the European numbers?
Pardon me?
Have you got the numbers for Europe?
I don't have them at the top of my head. I know Norway has 90% electric car sales
Yeah.
now, 90%. England is pretty good. France, Germany, they're
I know
doing
you
real well.
can't buy a gasoline Volvo in the UK, I know that.
Really?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
They're all electric.
Yeah. Europe and China are going to be the hot spots coming up. So light duty vehicles, which include cars, SUVs, vans, pickup trucks, 58% of greenhouse gas emissions are produced by those. Pickups are the most popular vehicle. The Ford F-150 is the best-selling vehicle in the US. So the Rivian, that's the R1T and the R1S, that's an electric truck. That one starts, I think it's $80,000 or $90,000, so it's not cheap. The Ford Lightning is in production now. The cheapest one of those is right at $40,000, and they go up to $80,000 or $90,000 too. The Chevy Silverado and the Sierra, the GM ones, they're due to come out in 2023. The Cybertruck, the Tesla Cybertruck, has well over 1 million orders. And you won't be able to touch one of those for 4 years. They're just not gonna be able to produce them fast enough. And it's not even gonna go into production until next year. But there are three, they may be eliminating the single, I forget. But anyway, the triple motor version of that will go 500 miles on a charge. Medium and heavy duty trucks, those are your semis and the larger vehicles. They're 10% of the US vehicles on the road, but they have 25% of the greenhouse gas emissions. And they're also culprits for nitrous oxides and lots of other particulates. They're just not good. So the faster we can switch over to electric for those, the better it's gonna be. And here you see some of the makers of the semi-trucks. Tesla's gonna start making those at their Austin factory. That's gonna be next year too. They're producing a few of them. Frito-Lay is taking delivery of a few of them to try it out.
What will the mileage be on a Silver?
That can be up to 500 miles too. There's gonna be two varieties. I think one is gonna be 250 or 300 and the other one's gonna be 500. And then I talked about the rest of the transportation stuff, the sources for those buses, motorcycles, lawn equipment. Okay, what about the batteries? Everybody wants to know about range and batteries. So it's the most expensive part of the car. If you have to replace a Tesla Model 3 battery, you're talking about $16,000. But these things will go in excess of 300,000 miles. So you're talking 10, 12, 14 years down the road before you have to replace the battery. Lithium. Everybody's worried about lithium supply, right? Tesla is all about ethical sourcing of these materials. Cobalt's in a lot of batteries, and most electric vehicle batteries, and that's mined in the Democratic Republic of Congo in Africa. That's the biggest place where that's produced. About 25% of the world's nickel is produced in Russia. So Tesla is really looking at ethical sourcing to make sure there's no labor abuses and the mining and stuff will be environmentally sound. There's talk about the Salton Sea in California, which used to be a resort area, and now the water's all drying up and leaving behind lithium residue. So there's great possibility for getting the lithium right at the surface of the ground without digging into the earth to get it. There's also research about using nanoparticles to recover lithium from streams. There's a lot of lithium in seawater. So with membrane technology, it might be possible to mine that. So, a lot of this stuff is speculative, but a lot of it has sound science behind it too.
Mike, have other manufacturers made the same claim for ethical sourcing? I know Tesla has been very vocal about ethical sourcing, but Ford, GM, they don't necessarily follow that policy.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm sure they're looking at it because it's a big ESG thing, environmental social governance, you know. So and
Because you certainly haven't heard them say anything about it.
pardon?
You certainly haven't heard them talk.
Yeah, not like Tesla. Tesla's, they're right out front with all this stuff, you know, you're right, I haven't heard them talk about it. So as I said, the Tesla batteries are the Model S was produced in 2012. That's the large Tesla sedan, and that starts at about $95,000 or something like that now. And that's been in production since about 2012. So there are some of those vehicles that have run 400, 500,000 miles, but not on the original batteries. But Tesla is projecting these batteries to go 300, 500,000, the new batteries that they're putting in cars. With and the warranty on Tesla batteries, on the cheapest Tesla battery, is 8 years or 100,000 miles. And they say it won't go below 70% of battery capacity at that time, 8 years down the road. And if it does, it'll be replaced under warranty. And my car, the long range that I just got, the warranty's for 120,000 miles, so they bumped that up. And as I say, there's lots of and recycling. Everybody's worried about battery recycling. There's a company called Redwood Materials in Nevada. There's also a couple of others that are doing household battery, lithium battery recycling. And they're also going to be doing car battery recycling. The thing is, there just haven't been a lot of EVs on the road to recycle the batteries for. But Redwood Materials in Nevada, the CEO of that company, J.B. Straubel, used to be the chief technology officer for Tesla. And they say they can recover 92 to 95% of component materials from the batteries. That's pretty cool. So they can reuse all these materials for new batteries. And they recover copper, aluminum, nickel, cobalt, lithium, all that stuff. You know, that's the components of the batteries pretty much. The Defense Protection Act. So about 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was a dictum that said they want to do research, they want to do production of domestic battery supply, they want to look at mining and capturing all these materials to support all the electric cars that are going to be made here. So there's a big push on research, efficiency, range, improving all that stuff. And the Defense Production Act has been invoked to do that. Okay, so the cheapest Tesla that's made now is called rear wheel drive. It used to be called Standard Range Plus. That uses no cobalt at all. It uses a different battery chemistry, lithium iron phosphate. Now the battery is not as efficient as the nickel something aluminum, NCA, forget what it, nickel cobalt aluminum, sorry. It's not as efficient as that battery. The beauty of this battery is you can charge it to 100% with impunity all the time. There's no problem with that. It doesn't charge quite as fast as the nickel, cobalt, aluminum batteries, but it's still pretty good. And the cheapest Tesla will go 272 miles on a charge now. So, in 2021, the cost per kilowatt hour was $580. In 2022, it had dropped to $157. In 2011 or 12, it was over $1,000. So you can see how much this has dropped. The research and the improvement in the technology is pretty remarkable. So Tesla. 87% rise in sales from Q1 last year to Q1 this year. They're on track. You'll see on the fourth bullet here. They delivered 936,000 cars last year. They're on track to produce 1.5 million this year. They're the biggest EV manufacturer. There are 4 factories on the line right now. There's one in Fremont, California, which is where my car was made. There's the one in Austin, and they're making the Model Y, which is, I mentioned, the smaller SUV. And that one, the cheapest one of those goes for about $62,000 now. They're gonna be producing another one with a brand new battery technology. It's gonna be a little cheaper than that. That one will go 297 miles on a charge, this one that sells for $62,000. So they got the Austin factory that just came on board in April. They're gonna be producing the Model 3, the Model Y, the semi-truck, and the Roadster there. So they're gonna come out with this sports car that'll go 0 to 60 in 1.9 seconds. 70% of US car sales, US battery electric vehicle car sales are Teslas. In California in Q1, Tesla outsold every car manufacturer, no matter what type of car it was. With the Model Y in 3 and 1st and 2nd place, RAV4 was in 3rd place. They are, in my opinion, the technology to beat. They were the first to really promote electric vehicle sales. Everybody else is playing catch up. They have the best charging network with the superchargers. You put your destination in on the map, it'll show you all the superchargers on your route, how long you have to charge there to get to the next station, how many stalls are available at that location, what the amenities are around there. Pretty incredible stuff. Another nice thing is they're limited in service centers in this area. There's a couple in Dallas, there's one in Fort Worth. But one nice thing is they'll send a mobile service to your house to do a lot of these repairs if it's not needed to go to the service center.
Just coming from the automotive industry, I just retired from Ally, used to be General Motors Acceptance Corporation.
Yeah, G-Man.
Was an extended warranty.
Yeah.
In August, we were doing a contract refresh for the extended warranties, solar dealerships, adding electric vehicles, specifically excluding Tesla.
Really?
Yes.
Do you know why?
Yes. Just because the cost of good service, availability of parts, very limited repair network. So it's a lot of the companies that are going to be writing, extended warranty companies that are going to be writing service contracts are taking a hard look at Tesla and kind of following suit that they don't want to write contracts for.
Well, one of the issues is there's not a lot of third parties that they do auto body repairs, but you got so many sensors on the electric cars that a lot of the third party firms won't do repairs on Tesla. You can get some companies that'll do battery replacement right now, but it's just a different model, you know. Like Tesla in Texas is a very unusual story because they got the factory in Austin. You can't do direct sales.
Okay.
Texas is supporting the dealer networks, and they won't let Tesla do direct sales. So from the Tesla factory, it's my understanding they have to actually ship the car out of state and then re-import it to Texas to do the sale. And everything is done online. Everything is done online for the purchase of a car.
That's what Texas, the NADA has had a very strong presence in Texas
Sure.
for years.
Sure.
You have to go through a franchise. You can't have direct sell from any manufacturer.
Sure. And Connecticut is like that. I think North Carolina, there's 5 or 6 states that have that model. But is it best for the consumer? You know, you go to a dealership, let me talk to my manager, let me add for some of the Ford Lightning trucks, there's a dealer that added a $60,000 markup.
I think that was a mistake. I think they retracted that.
Did they?
Yeah.
Okay, because I saw the story the other day, I didn't see the retract. But they are doing massive markups. I don't know. There's-
Yeah, they took the
10
retail price of the vehicle and they doubled it accidentally, and it was an option or something. But anyhow, they retracted it.
Okay, but it's pretty typical to see $10,000, $15,000 markups on at the dealers. Let's see, and Tesla has over-the-air updates, you know, frequently, at least once a month, you're seeing new features added to the car. You know, typically you have to buy a new car to get new mapping features, or I can't even enumerate all the things you get for free with these over-the-air updates. So an update is typically 25 minutes, you park it in your garage, you plug it in, the next morning you got all these new features. And there's all this noise about Tesla recalls. So many of these things can be fixed with these electronic updates. I mean, last week there was a big article, I forget what news source it was, about all these major manufacturers that had all these hardware issues. GM and Ford and Toyota. So a lot of it is just spurious noise in a lot of regards too.
But isn't it about to do a major recall on Teslas because of the braking issues?
So they have what's called phantom braking. You've probably seen that. So you'd be driving down the highway, all of a sudden the car will brake. NHTSA is looking at that, but I've experienced it once in my car in all the miles I've traveled. So maybe on some of the interstates it can be more of a problem, because it can slow down pretty abruptly. So if you get a car really close in back of you, it could be an issue. NHTSA's looking at it. And there was also a recent report that I think there were 12 or 14 accidents with emergency vehicles on autopilot. So NHTSA's looking at that. But if you compare the safety of driving a Tesla on autopilot versus the safety of driving a regular car, I think Tesla has 11%, I forget the statistic, but quite a fewer accidents when you're driving on autopilot compared to drivers that are driving their own car. I'm sorry, I can't remember the exact percentage, but it was substantial. It was substantial.
I have an insurance question.
Sure.
What happened when you called your auto insurer to let them know you had a new sheet to drive?
It was very easy. My insurer is Amica. I just called them, I gave them the VIN number of the new car, and they added it right away.
So how, comparatively speaking, did it use the same people before? I've got no idea.
I was thinking about the premium.
The premium, okay. So it is more expensive to insure an electric vehicle because of all the sensors and things. I think I pay around $1,900 a year for my old car, and the new one I think they quoted me $18 more. But it can be $200-300 more than a conventional car. Sure. Tesla spends the most on R&D. They don't do any marketing. They don't have a marketing department. I talked about the battery warranty. I talked about the charging network. So here's a couple examples of electric vehicles. The airplane is in test mode right now. Vertical takeoff or landing. They're talking about airplanes, commuter airplanes that are going to be much easier to navigate because you don't have the road system and the left turns and all that. So apparently the air traffic control system is going to be much easier when these things fly in the air. The Volta Zero, I mentioned some of the semi-trucks earlier. Daimler, Tesla, there's a bunch of, this is an example of one that's coming into production very soon, if it isn't, it may already be out there, I don't know. And this is an example of an battery electric vehicle locomotive that's in production right now. One of the major train lines has bought, I think, 4 of these.
Now, most train locomotives are electric already.
Yeah, but they're diesel generated.
Well, they have a generator, but they themselves are battery and electric grid.
This is fully battery electric vehicle. There's no fossil fuel generation of the battery power.
At some end, there is, but. True.
Okay, on the left is the Model 3. That's the one I have. And on the right is the Cybertruck. That's the one that's gonna be produced at the Austin factory and has the well over 1 million orders for it
That
already.
is the strangest looking.
You either love it or you hate it, I think.
I don't know what to think about it. It looks like something you want to ride in on a Mad Max.
Yeah, there's a lot of comparisons.
And it's
to it.
significantly bigger, actually. The most of the photographs, I think, for perspective, makes them look really small and sleek. They're big.
Yeah, they are pretty big. It's full pickup size. It'll
How
haul
many people can ride in there?
5 or 6. It'll haul 14,000 pounds, has a payload of, I think,
It looks like something you would drive around on Mars.
Back to the Future.
it's all stainless steel. There's no paint job on it either.
And there's no windshield wipers.
They're just hidden they're hidden below the windshield. They have them. There was an engineering problem with the windshield wipers. They just redesigned it to be more practical. They're always evolving, you know. So that is it. Can I answer any questions for anybody? Any observations or anything?
What is the National Grid doing to try to support this? Because
Sure.
it's going to be an incredible add.
It
to
is.
current loads.
It is eventually. If it were 100% electric vehicles on the road right now, it'd be
We would have Air
untenable.
conditioning.
It would be untenable. You couldn't do it.
Or charging.
Or drive your car or condition your house.
But it's gonna build, you know, as the grid greens with solar power and wind power. It's like in the old days when they first introduced air conditioners. The grid wasn't prepared for that. But as there's recognition that electric cars are gonna be the future, I think there's pretty general agreement on that now. They're gonna take care of the grid. And if you get solar panels on your roof, you don't have to worry about it. As they reduce in cost, you know,
Do a lot of people have solar panels or roasting?
I don't know.
There's a scattering of them, yeah, if you
Do you?
drive around.
Really?
I've got one there who's got it.
Okay.
I don't know how,
How it all works.
or they're actually getting it as a benefit.
Yeah.
At 72, the payback in my lifespan
Yeah.
are sort of kind of balanced.
Yeah. It depends on what you pay for them.
The payback for resident Rosen is not there, because it's 20, depending on what you pay, it's usually about 20 years to get your money back.
Yeah.
Okay,
It makes
well.
sense, y'all are done.
We only asked for an analysis here,
Well, I
right?
looked into it,
Yeah.
so, unless you can get a lot of rebates, it doesn't make sense.
There are some rebates out there for solar too.
Yeah, it's just, there's just not.
You got solar panels on your house?
I don't, but I have a guy working a quote for me right now to see. My average electric bill is like $60 a month or something like that. I charged my new car 149 kilowatt hours the other day, which is about 1/3 of the battery capacity. Cost me $3.
Like we were talking about insurances earlier, and this is kind of an aside, but apparently in Europe, boats or yachts that have converted to lithium batteries are no longer being insured for fire. They
Really,
won't cover them.
I believe it.
So I think there'll be some interesting turns in the way
So how
that
are you getting your yacht insured then?
Jeff Bezos.
They'll take a little risk.
More Rivians for Jeff.
There are quite a few ships and private motor boats that are electric.
It just, there's some things coming down the pipe which are absolutely wonderful, and
Yeah.
somebody will have a way to upset that apple cart with insurance
Sure.
or something of that nature. So it's not going to be clear sailing, I think.
Tesla offers their own insurance in Texas now.
Ah,
You can
very
buy
good.
Tesla insurance. And it can be 30% cheaper than what you would get through other companies. And it's a little tricky because they monitor your driving habits. It's kind of like Progressive, what you hear with their little device you plug into the car. But it can be quite a bit cheaper. But I have to say, I have a Mica because they have glass coverage, and the roof of my Tesla's all glass. So a chip hit my windshield a couple of months ago, had to have a full windshield replacement. I pay, I think it's $89 every 6 months for the glass coverage. And the bill for the windshield was over $1,000. And Tesla covers that under comprehensive. So it's like if you have a deductible, you pay the deductible to get that replaced.
Just had my windshield, my RV replaced, $5,000.
Oh my God.
5,000, and in
Oh my
Texas, windshields and RVs are not covered as glass breakage, so it's all part of your coverage, so.
Comprehensive, right? Yeah. Wow. I called the Mica and they worked with SafeLight, but they said the Tesla had to do it because it had to be calibrated, the camera and everything. So I had Tesla.
To say the SafeLight people didn't come to the house.
No, they begged off. They wouldn't do it. They said Tesla had to do it.
Tesla's changed their vendor now for their driverless driver controls. They were working with one company. I think they just changed. Is that right? Or they changed and then changed back
For what?
for their collision avoidance autopilot.
The supplier for that system?
Yeah.
Oh, really? I hadn't heard that. That's interesting. Okay. They're doing a whole bunch of stuff in-house, I know. They're developing, all the code that they write, they do all that themselves, and they rely on artificial intelligence, and they're putting into place a supercomputer just for the driving. And, you know, it's a little confusing because they talk about full self-driving, which really isn't. There's like 5 levels before you get to full self. The 5th level is full self-driving. And they're at about 3 right now, and Elon overpromises all the time. But he says next year they'll be at level 4. And they have 100,000 beta testers right now for their full self-driving package. And it's $12,000 in addition to the price of the car to get full self-driving. So the cars come with autopilot. So you press down on the stock once, it puts it into cruise control. You press down twice, it invokes lane keeping capability. So essentially the car drives itself in that lane. It follows the car in front of you by a certain number of car lengths or seconds. It's for highway driving, it's pretty cool. And if you have a Tesla and you're taking a trip, you can buy the full self-driving package on a monthly basis. So you pay for 1 month while you're on your trip. It's $199.
I got a question.
Yeah.
I have lane keeping in our car.
Uh-huh.
It rides that left lane, that left line, and it almost pushes you into the next lane. Does the Tesla try to drive in the middle?
It does.
Okay.
It drives right in the middle. What's really, well, when you're on a long trip, obviously, you have to keep your hands near the wheel about every 25 seconds. It'll ask you to just give it a little tug on the wheel to let you know, let the car know you're still consciously driving. Yeah.
Yeah, because I had to turn it off because it was constantly.
So close,
to the
huh?
left, yeah.
No, this is right down the middle. And when it's really windy, it's very handy to have that. You don't have to fight the wheel all the time. It's cool.
Did you hear about the Lightning and the Tesla charger?
The Lightning can charge the Teslas. I saw today a Lightning can charge 5 electric cars at one time. The Lightning has bi-directional charging, so it can power your house for up to 10 days if you lose power. So that's what I have. Any questions for anybody?
Do you have a Tesla charger in your garage?
I do. So it's not difficult to install if your car's near where it's going to be charged. It's a 220, 240 line, I think 240. 240. You just put a breaker in your panel, and run the cable down the wall, and then you get a special outlet, it's called a NEMA 1450 that handles the Tesla connection, and you're good to go. So my son-in-law used to be an electrician, so I bought him a lasagna dinner and I got it. It's really cool. The car is unbelievably.
You just did an outlet, you didn't do an actual charger.
Right, I didn't do a wall charger. I had bought one of those originally, and then I figured, you get a little more juice out of it, another 10 amps or something, but not that great a difference.
The $400 wall connector?
Yeah, it used to be 500, it's a 400 now.
I'm just reading, I already priced out my Tesla, by the way. Anyways,
I need to give you a ride, Bart.
What's that?
I need to give you a ride.
My daughter actually has one.
Does she?
I'm thinking about installing one of these at the house.
Uh-huh.
Comes up every once in a while.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyways.
It costs, 800
Price it
to,
out.
Yeah, my Model Y that I priced out was, including the autopilot feature, was like $76,000 something dollars.
including full self-driving, you mean?
Well, it says autopilot, I mean. I don't-
That comes with all of them, that's
And when
standard.
can you pick it up?
It does say full self-drive. What's that?
When can you pick it up?
Quicker than what it took to build my house. Which I just moved into about 6 weeks ago, right across the street from Steve here.
Well, you can live in the
March, June timeframe, I think.
That's fast, because last time I looked, they said next March.
Yeah, March to June.
Oh, okay, yeah. They just can't make them fast enough, the demand is so strong. I ordered my Model 3 April 1st, and I just got it last Saturday, so that was pretty quick. If you go for premium features, I mean, with Teslas, what you see is what you get. You can get white seats, you can get a different color paint, you can upgrade the wheels, you can get speed boost. There's very limited upgrades you can do, but if you elect premium wheels or full self-driving, you get bumped up the list for delivery, so you don't have to wait till March. But the wheels are like $2,000, premium wheels.
So is it worth 3 weeks?
No, it'll be this year, actually.
No, but if you spend the $2,000 on wheels, will you get bumped up in priority by 3 weeks? I mean.
No, it's significant. I think you could get delivery this year if you.
Hey, let's say, 67, after potential savings, however that happens.
That's the gas.
I'm gonna be a ways out on something like this. Anyway.
Yeah.
So
there's no
hydrogen,
discounts.
what do you think will happen with hydrogen? I heard there's a new
Hydrogen?
technology just burst through the market about a month ago. It's called micropapillary separation, where they can now do it at a positive, instead of using electrolysis and the cost
Right.
to create hydrogen, they drop that by about 100 times.
Oh, I haven't seen that, okay.
So
PSA.
it'll still be an issue with distribution and everything else, but.
Yeah.
I saw in Europe, they're doing it, they're running hydrogen in trains. Because they have a fixed fueling location. And it's easy to install that there.
Mhm.
And then they can go.
A lot of the semi-trucks, they're talking about long distance hauling, but a whole lot of it hauling is local. And they have fleets and they charge in the parking lot at night and they're ready to go all day, and yeah, it's cool. Hydrogen makes sense for like airliners and ships and things like that, where battery weight is an issue, the size of the battery. So it can make a lot of sense, and even long haul trucks, semi-trucks and things like that, can make a lot of sense.
Somebody ought to come up with a plug-in battery for Teslas that's universal, that maybe gives you an extra 100 miles, and you can plug it in and exchange it at some site.
There are some Chinese companies that let you swap out the batteries at
It'd
locations.
be brilliant.
Yeah. And battery technology is always improving, range efficiency, all that, it's getting better and better. There's a Chinese company called BYD, Build Your Dream. That's a car company, and they make quite a variety of electric and plug-ins and hybrids. And they make batteries, blade batteries, which are more the solid state ones compared to the liquid electrolyte. And there was a report, they said the other day, they're gonna start selling batteries to Tesla, so we'll see. All kinds of developments, you really gotta keep up with it.
I was watching the CEO of General Motors talking about.
Mary Barra.
Did you watch?
Mary
their
Barra.
interview when they were introducing some of their stuff? She was asked by one of the reporters, where does, she was talking about charging and what have you, where the power came from. And so she acted pretty dumb, and it turned out that the power supply, the CEO of the power company was there too. 95% coal.
It's changing.
Michigan, yeah.
50% of the coal plants have shut down.
Yeah.
Pardon?
In
In the US, yeah, China, how do you turn that ship around so fast in China? They got the huge population, electricity demand, but 1 in 5 cars is electric now, you know, so they're making some progress. The cheapest car in the cheapest electric car in the US right now is a Chevy Bolt, and that's 28,100 or something like that. They just dropped the price of that by about $6,000.
It's cheaper than a golf cart.
Doesn't run as far though, doesn't go as far.
So actually, I was gonna ask you, after we got done talking about cars, have y'all done a deal on golf carts? Because I'm in the market for one, and I know I wanna go with, you know, lithium ion, but
I don't
I'm kinda torn about it all.
know. I'm not sure about it.
Yeah, I mean, between Club Car, Easy Go, Evolution, Icon, I don't know, I sort of like the, being able to get parts, I think, is something that.
Shop around.
Shop around.
See what the golf courses use.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, they've got a monopoly, right, so they've been around.
Yes, sir, you had a question?
Yeah, these electronic car meat processors and chips and CPUs, and you can't take them. So how are they gonna run these without those? And they're all in China.
The chip supply is a problem. They expect that it will last until 2024.
2024?
Yes, sir. About
Right
20.
now you can hardly get any.
Well, they're still manufacturing cars. There are some chips available. And Tesla does their own software and stuff, so they can use what chips are available and custom fit their software to the chip availability. So it hasn't been too much of a problem with Tesla, but GM's had some problems. Ford has had some lightning sitting on the parking lot because they couldn't get them. So yeah, there's an issue with that, and that's why, like, used car prices are so high. That's why trade-in values are so high for used cars. That's why it's so hard to get new cars. Pardon?
Can't get computers or drivers.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, almost 90% of chip production is in China.
Yeah.
And it's changing, they're building a new chip factory here in the US.
No.
Foxconn.
No,
Foxconn, right?
Yeah,
Where?
so it should,
In the US, they're building a Foxconn plant in the
it
US.
should ease it down to 50%.
The huge bottleneck has been with Texas Instruments stuff, because they're one of the only manufacturers of analog chips. And that's where the big bottleneck is an off-on switch.
Okay. And then you got Ukraine that made all the wiring harnesses for VWs, so VW is all backed up trying to get wiring harnesses for their cars. Supply chain is an issue, but Tesla's been able to navigate it pretty well.
Single source is the issue.
Yeah,
American made?
Texas Instruments.
Where are they from?
South America, American. Wherever Elon used to be from.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, T.
Okay, thanks for coming. Thank you for coming, appreciate it.